Hi, my name is Samuel Bartels, and this is VAR. The first of Ghana's two friendly matches in the month of March as part of their preparations for the World Cup has ended. 5-1, Ghana was defeated Austria, beating Ghana by 5 goals to 1. Austria's goals were scored by Sabitzer, Grigoric, Posh, Chukwuemeka, Sewell, with Ghana's consolation goal coming from Jordan Caillou. Now, I'll go through the statistics. Ghana had 40% of the total possession with just one shot on target. In terms of touches inside the opposition area, Ghana had 11 touches, with Austria having 25 touches. Very obviously, this match was not a competitive game. The Austrians completely dominated Ghana, and it was a poor performance, with Ghana always being a step too slow for the Austrians and chasing their shadows for most parts of the game, which is why this early performance from Ghana deserves a VAR review. So here's my review of the Ghana versus Austria game. Before the game, I mentioned that it was important to put Otuado's friendly match results under scrutiny. Now, for the coach, our friendly matches just one big laboratory test, or the results matter to him. We've seen from Otuado's results from having qualified Ghana for 2 World Cups that his friendly match results tend to be quite inferior to the 3 other coaches who have qualified Ghana for the World Cup, Ratimir Djikovic, Milovan Raibat, and Kwesi Appiah. So there are questions as to how the coach would approach this game. 5-1 though is quite a lot for Ghanaians to stay. Ghana for you. 5-1 there in their crowd. With less than 3 months to go before the kickoff of the World Cup. So why did Ghana lose by 5 goals to 1? This is a litmus test of Ghana's preparedness to take on the best in the world at the World Cup. Then Ghana has a lot of improvements to make before the World Cup. I think the first thing we have to remember is that not playing in the AFCON and missing out on that tournament is beginning to tell on Ghana's team. Many teams which played in the AFCON got the opportunity to measure themselves, at least against African opposition, got the opportunity to measure their players in a competitive environment. Since the qualifiers ended for the World Cup qualifiers, since Ghana failed to make it to the AFCON, Ghana has not had the opportunity to play a competitive or semi-competitive match. So this was the first time in many months that Eduardo was getting the chance to put a squad together. Granted, there are a few injuries that robbed Ghana of certain players. The look on the field was not very convincing from Eduardo. He played a 4-2-3-1 formation, and there were some flaws that obviously have to be highlighted. And the most obvious one, the most egregious one, is the attempt to find partners for established players all across the field. In the midfield, Sibor was preferred to partner Partey, and he's meant to provide both the steel that protects the back line and the transitions. It's quite clear that Sibor is not the one that we are looking for. Some of his rash challenges, his inability to break up play when he was expected to, which would then have allowed Partey to move into a more favorable 8th position and then transition Ghana's midfield, proved to be quite problematic. In fact, in a more competitive game, Sibor should have had a red card for his unfortunate challenge on the Austrian player, went there to blood all over the Austrian player's jersey. So the midfield was a big problem to be, was complete dominant. It wasn't even competitive against the Austrians. So Sibor obviously did not pass the test today. In defense, we saw Ajete coming to the team, and it's the worst possible way for a player to start his national team career. He conceded a penalty which was converted by the Austrians within 15 minutes, and which set Ghana back from within the first quarter of the game, making it a mountain to climb right from the first stages of the game. He subsequently appeared to have recovered his composure. But when you look at the statistics and you look at the number of aerial duels between Ghana and Austria, you would find that Ghana won just about 5 aerial duels, whereas the Austrians won 12 of their aerial duels. It was quite obvious that anytime there was a set play, Ghana had a challenge and even conceded goals from the set play. Ghana was always second best when it came to the headers. And the goal that was conceded from the corner kick was quite obvious. Sibor should have stuck to his man, but could not stick to him because it was a shade meet. There wasn't a lot of organization and confidence in the defense when Ghana was defending. The weakest spot in the Ghana defense was the right-hand side. Caleb Irenchi was starting at right-hand side with Fatal playing in front of him. They posed very little attacking threat, and defensively, they were responsible for at least two of the goals that Ghana conceded. And worst of all was a poor touch by Irenchi from the pass that came from the Austrian defense. Took his eyes off the ball for just a moment, and he made the fatal error that led to Austria scoring that particular goal. Now, what was the challenge? It was quite obvious during the game that Irenchi was struggling to stay tactically disciplined at right back. There were a few moments that many people would not have noticed where Irenchi would, after releasing the pass, have moved into the middle of the park, expecting that there would be a transition, and then finding out that Ghana has lost the ball in midfield and try to cover his errors. And very often, this ended up with Austria creating goal-scoring chances. Fatal was hardly in the game throughout and did not provide enough protection for Irenchi. Neither did he provide much attacking threat until later in the game when he managed to get himself into goal-scoring positions. But he lashed out very wildly, and the goals could not come in. Now, there's a big question about Ghana's utilization of Antoine Semenyo, and it will be one of the questions that Otuado would have to resolve going into the 2026 World Cup. Semenyo has had a brilliant Premier League season for two clubs, which shows the level of his consistency. He's had a great season for Bournemouth, and when he switched to Manchester City, he just slotted into the team effortlessly and has won his first competition, the Carabao Cup. The big question is, why can we not get the best out of Antoine Semenyo when he plays for the Black Stars? And a few things are quite obvious. The sort of understanding he built and the sort of opportunities that are created for him to make runs or the fast releases that happen at club level are not the same things that are happening at the international level with the Black Stars. What is his best position in the Black Stars? Is he on the left or on the right? We've seen him play both on the left and the right for Manchester City and Bournemouth, and somehow he seems to excel. The only moment in the game against Austria when we saw the possibility of what could happen with Semenyo was an exchange with Derek Cohn, who had come into the midfield, which led to a sweet cross into the Austrian area that Ghana couldn't make much of. Antoine Semenyo thrives on the spaces that are left in front of him, on the quick pass, on somebody reading his movements, and somebody playing it into space and giving him the opportunity to make the most of it, and chances being created for him to run onto in the box. These are not happening in the Black Stars. Well, today, particularly because the midfield was not functioning and the attackers barely had a sniff of goal. You're not creating enough chances. And if you're not creating opportunities, players like Semenyo and Inaki Williams will continue to struggle in the Black Stars, despite the impressive club form that they may have coming into the Black Stars. Now let's talk about attack, because one of Ghana's biggest headache for years since the retirement of Asamoah has been, where will the goals come from? Without a reliable source of goals going into a major tournament, any team will struggle, and the Black Stars have found out the hard way. Although goals were shared in the World Cup qualifiers, in high-stake matches where Ghana has failed to find a reliable source of goals, Ghana has always struggled. Today, Otuado decided to be great, and he decided to give Edu Kwabena an opportunity up front. I was impressed with his intelligent movement, with his hold-up play, and his use as a battering ram for Ghana up front. He managed to get another skate of the Austrian defense, and on at least 2 or 3 occasions, he managed to break free. Unfortunately, the positive vibes he showed with his hold-up play and his ability to hold his own with his physicality against Austrians was not completed by his goal-scoring touch. And in at least 2 of those chances, when he managed to wiggle himself away from the Austrian opposition, he should have taken the ball full time and should have at least found a target on those occasions. Unfortunately, he did not. But I have to say that there were positives in his movement, particularly the chance that was created for him by Atasigi, the goalkeeper for Ghana, with a clearance from the back. Although that would not have counted because he was offside, it showed how smooth transition and distribution from the back can work for Ghana's Black Stars. Let's also evaluate Jordan's performance today. He got Ghana's only goal. And we had to describe the goal as a situation where Jordan simply decided to take matters into his own hands, drove into the box from about 40 yards out towards the right-hand side, of the opposition's area, looking at it from the Ghana perspective, and then took the shot, a very accurate shot that he lashed into the top corner of the net. Now, when you looked at the broad spectrum of the box, there was nobody available who was open for him to share the chance with. Hence, his decision to go and then shoot. It shows, one, the opportunities that Ghana has to create goal scoring opportunities from quick transitions. But then it also shows our limitation in the sense that at such a crucial moment, the transitions were not done collectively. You didn't have enough Ghana players reading the movements of the captain and putting themselves in the position. So it was a high moment for Jordan Ayew, but generally he did not have the best of games because he saw very little of the ball. He sometimes interchanged positions with Antoine Semenyo, went on to the left and came on to the right, essentially playing as a number 10. Behind Idu Kwabena, who was a main striker, but he did not get the opportunity to influence the game. So, why does that leave us? In this match against Austria, Ghana shot itself in the foot. So many of these goals came from turnovers and misplaced possession, and Ghana essentially imploding and turning this gun on itself, creating opportunities for the Austrians to score 5 goals against Ghana, which will not flatter Ghana and which will not in any way pose any fear from Panama, from England, or from Croatia. One of the other things that emerged from this game is that Ghana struggles against tactically disciplined sides that have a high press. Because what we saw today was Ghana struggled against the press of the Austrian side, who were relentless and chased every single ball. And even when Ghana had possession, they gave the Ghanaian players very little time to consider their option and to think about what to do with the ball before the ball was collected from them. I've already mentioned the aerial and physical vulnerability of that. It was quite obvious, and it showed in the goals that we considered from set play and in the 50-50 balls that Ghana missed out because we just didn't have the physicality to compete with the Austrians. Then, of course, there's the fullback exposure that we've seen today with a number of the goals coming from the fullback positions. Yurichi is certainly not the one to play in right back. He seems to prefer to go into midfield. And perhaps if he doesn't have a starting position in midfield, he might as well sit on the bench. But perhaps he should be paired with Partey as an experimental midfield lineup in a formation that he's likely to be more comfortable with, to see whether he can measure up to a midfield position, because it's quite clear that right back is not a comfortable position that he can play, not in a friendly and certainly not in a high-stakes game against Panama, Croatia, or England. Then there's the issue of the tactical switch-off. The goals Ghana considered in the latter part of the game was purely because the players switched off momentarily. We saw Yomchi switch off. We saw the defenders switch off. We saw chances where defenders were not organized enough and did not push out enough to repulse the opponent and make things harder for them in trying to score the goals that they ended up scoring. So what else can we look at? The goalkeeping department, which has been a big talking point with everybody believing that Benjamin Asare will be Otuado's starting number 1. We know that is the case purely based on performances, purely based on the number of clean sheets that Benjamin Asare has been able to keep. The key question is, for a coach, are you simply satisfied with Goalkeeper who commands its area as well as Benjamin Asare does, who is a short stopper that Benjamin Asare is, or you would want more than that? Today, we saw the advantages that come with Atizigi, which emerges from his transition play, his distribution and his ability to contribute generally. And we saw the fingertip save that he made early on in the game from what was a certain goal from a header from the number 19 player for Austria. However, I mean, he happened to be on the wrong end of a 5-1 mauling by the Austrians, and that would reinforce the position some people have, whether it's superstitiously or spatial coincidence, that Atazigi starts for the Black Stars and cannot keep a clean sheet. Because today's inability to keep a clean sheet was not the goalkeeper's fault. I don't see any of the goals that can be blamed on the goalkeeper. It's nothing at all. It's to be blamed on the defense and those who are tasked to shield him. But he would not have won the public love and public affection as far as the starting position is concerned. We expect that Benjamin Asare will start as number one in the Germany game and probably starts, and most likely starts as number one in the World Cup. But we need to find a way to get Benjamin Asare contributing in the transitions and initiation of attacks from the back beyond just him being a safety pair of hands. So in terms of the backup players, the verdict was quite damning. We didn't see too much of Senaya. He had an offensive opportunity in which he came all the way, but he was given very little time.
So all in all, neither England nor Croatia nor Panama will be crapping in their pants on this Ghana performance, if anything at all. They would have been emboldened seeing Ghana perform the way that they did. This is a Ghana that has expanded its technical team, but as I said, my firm belief is missing the AFCON and having not had the opportunity to work with the team was clearly showing in the rustiness that was showed on the pitch. Otuado is losing the public opinion battle as far as his competence is concerned. He has another opportunity with Germany to show his competence and his ability to take the Black Stars into the World Cup. But all in all, if this was a test, Ghana would have failed this test terribly. But I also think it's the sort of test and is a sort of outcome that is good for the Black Stars. There's been a lot of excitement, with the launch of the jerseys and everything else. But I think Ghanaians and those who support Ghana's Black Stars will have to remain humble and will have to realize that this iteration of the Black Stars are not yet world beaters. They are not the world beaters that the 2006 team was. They are not the world beaters that the 2010 team was. And that they would have to build slowly. But it is important that Otuado stamps some form of identity around this team. Today, if they were sitting back, they did so horribly and built up very slowly and had very little speed in their transitions and barely threatened the Austrian national team and Ralf Rangnick's players. So there has to be some clarity about how this team wants to play. There has to be some clarity as to how the Black Stars can hurt opponents. Because as it stands now, the Black Stars do not look capable of hurting any world-class team, let alone a middle-class team when they face them in the World Cup. So Otuado has a lot of work to do, winning over the public as far as their hearts and minds are concerned and the confidence that they have in the Black Stars are concerned. The Black Stars get to do this again against Germany. We'll watch what will happen, and then we'll see what that says or what that reveals as far as Ghana's likely performance at the World Cup is concerned. But I'd like to say, let's remain humble and realize that there's work to be done with the team. Before I go, for all the Nigerians who were celebrating Nigeria's 2-1 win over Iran and deriding Ghana's loss by 5-1, just remember that it doesn't matter how many friendly international matches Nigeria wins between now and July. It could never earn them a ticket to participate at the World Cup. So, Charlie, you take your own, make we also take our own. So that's VAR. My name is Samuel Bartels. Yo, Charlie is the page to be on with a full gamut of entertainment and sport. Subscribe to our page. Love our content because our content is lovable. I'll see you on the next episode of VAR.